The psychedelic revolution is here. If you want to integrate your visionary experiences into your purpose, get clear on your entrepreneurial path, and help people while you do what you love, then this podcast is for you. Welcome to The Psychedelic Entrepreneur, Medicine for These Times. I'm your host, Beth Weinstein. I'm a spiritual business coach, 3-time entrepreneur, and a lifelong student of psychedelics and sacred plant medicines. You carry your own unique medicine, and your medicine is what we need for these times. This podcast will help you to share your medicine so you can create transformation in the world. Listen in on conversations with psychedelic leaders, changemakers, and conscious entrepreneurs who are living proof that a better world is possible when you follow your heart and live in alignment with your soul. Hello there. Thank you so much for tuning in. Just a quick reminder, please leave a review, subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. It would really make a difference to me if you like this podcast or this episode. So today is April 9th when I'm recording this, and it's also the day that this is going to be released. It's the day after the big solar eclipse that just happened here in the United States. So once in a blue moon, I like to just ramble about what is very alive for me right now. If you've been following me a long time, you know that I'm into astrology. And I'm assuming most of you listening to me are, but I know there's a lot of skeptical people out there that really don't believe in it all. Here's the thing. When there's astrological transits and big eclipses or the moon's cycle, whatever it is, I take everything with a little grain of salt. Even though I really believe in it, I also know that we are human beings with free will and big hearts, and we can really create this reality as we want it. But it's interesting. I just personally came off of 4 nights of sitting with my favorite medicine that I work with the closest, which is sacred ayahuasca medicine. I was down in Costa Rica and then had some previously before that. And it's interesting for those that have listened to some of my podcast recordings before or podcasts with other people on other podcasts. For example, actually, I don't think this got released, but one with Hamilton Souther, which I think it's not been released yet. We spoke about ayahuasca visions and what comes through. And it's interesting. I shared with him a lot about how ayahuasca has shown me visions of the future for many, many, many years since day one. And it's not just ayahuasca. I've seen a lot of future visions since I was quite young. And, I don't know what to make out of them. Sometimes I make meaning, sometimes I don't. Mostly I just sit with it all. This is how I work with psychedelics. I, open an inquiry. I get into a contemplation. I do not take everything literally. Sometimes there are messages that come through over and over and over and over and over for many years. And then I start to question I wonder why this one message keeps coming through over and over and over for many years. Some are a little more obvious than others. I'm sure those of you who work with psychedelics know what I mean. There are some messages where it's like, oh, that is about something very specific in my life that applies to my life. And now I've gotten clear insight and I can actually go take action, integrate it into my reality to make some changes in my life. Those happen. But what do we do when we see big visions of the world, of the earth, of humanity, of great change, with the eclipse? So I've been following the Turning of the Ages Mystery School astrology, which used to be called the Shamanic Astrology Mystery School. This school is founded by astrologer Daniel Giamario, who I need to invite onto this podcast. And I've been following their work for about maybe 10 or 11 years, maybe even longer. And he has been analyzing the USA's birth chart and different transits that the US, as in the United States, is going through or has gone through, including these big eclipses. And I wrote an email back in 2018, which I'm actually going to dig up. I've been thinking about this. I know I have it saved somewhere. I wrote an email to my audience in 2018 about Uranus and Taurus and the coming changes in our world. And of course, in 2018, it's only a couple of years before the pandemic. It seemed like so long ago to be saying things like, well, astrology predicts that there will be great changes coming. And here's the thing. It's not just astrology. Those of you who know about the Hopi prophecy, the eagle and the condor prophecy, there's ancient wisdom that spans back, millennia that talks about great changes happening on Earth. And the reality is Earth goes through cycles, just like human beings, just like nature, all of nature. Everything that exists in reality is cyclical. There are births and there are deaths. Even within your business, as you know, there are births and deaths. We are constantly rebirthing ourselves. And if you're not rebirthing yourself constantly, I don't know how you're avoiding it. I would actually love to meet someone who's not constantly going through the initiations of growth and birth, rebirth, death, growth. It's this constant cycle, which I believe is just part of the human journey here on Earth. So some of these visions I get that I've been getting for many years, they are not new, and they kind of went away for a few years, and then they started coming back, and they started coming back with more clarity and more details. And these visions show what many of you, I'm assuming many of you have probably had similar visions, and many of you have heard about these, and many of you have intuition about this. And of course, there are people speaking about this all over the internet, and, astrologers and psychics and all the people out there, the energy people, whoever you might follow. I just call them the YouTubers, like the energy YouTubers that are constantly giving updates on the world and what's happening. But what I keep seeing are these visions of, this transformed Earth, which is beautiful. And it's showing me these visions of what I would refer to as kind of the Kali Yuga energy of destruction. And again, I really don't like to feed anything with fear. I've been seeing so much fear on social media and in the media around this eclipse and around the world. And, it's like, there's nothing to fear. There is an awareness of, okay, I think everybody's pretty clear, and it doesn't matter who you talk to. I can talk to my own brother who's not at all on this path. And everybody feels that there's change happening because we feel it in our bones. And especially since 2020, it's very obvious. There's change, life is not as it was, and it never will be. And by the way, it never was. And there were always wars. There's always been destruction. There's always been corruption and political leaders you don't like. It's just, with this today's day and age and technology and everything right at our fingertips with video and, now with God knows what fake news, AI, we don't even know what's real anymore. But there's just so much content available. We have never been this connected to what's actually happening in a small village on the other side of the planet like we are today. So, these visions keep showing me this great change. It shows me what I keep calling the crash, the collapse. And it shows me these visions of money and abundance, which is something that I've had since day one. I don't know what this is. I've done a lot of deep work around abundance and money because I have a lot of trauma around it in my what I believe to be my DNA, in my blood, in my bones, in my ancestry. I will not be the first to admit that. So I had a Jewish father and a non-Jewish mother. And that Jewish side of my family carries a lot of deep trauma of, persecution. And by the way, there's deep trauma and persecution all over in what I believe to be every kind of background there is. Some maybe more than others, as it's been shown and talked about in history. But, I really believe that we all are carrying the collective trauma, and survival is one of them. It's not really about money. It's about this disconnection from source and being a human, trying to stay alive and, on a deeper level, avoid death, because humans are so afraid of death, whether they want to admit it or not. It's kind of like the fear of the unknown. It lives inside of our cells. Some people have it more than others, and, it is what it is. But I think this is why money and abundance is such a deep journey for so many people. It's, with the way we live in this modern world today, it's a threat to our survival to not have money. I think if we were living like, I don't know, not even 7 generations ago, but maybe 14 generations ago or beyond that, maybe it'd be different. Maybe it was different because we were living in community more, in villages. We had this awareness maybe. And again, who am I to speak for what we actually had? I don't know. I was alive back then and I wasn't alive back then, but I'm just here, projecting and assuming that back then things were different. We were more interconnected and living together. And we had this awareness that we were all in this together. And now in this modern day, we live so separately, even though we are more connected than ever, as they say. There's so much, perceived separation. And after I came back from this medicine recently, I went into a 3-day grief tending ritual retreat, which was amazing, with this very wise elder who kept saying the word justice actually means just us. It is just us. That's justice. And it really hit me hard what he was saying. It's like, yeah, look at this world that we're in. So many people demand and want justice and freedom for all. But it's like, how are you not even playing out just us in our everyday little waking reality of going to the store and connecting to someone versus staring at your phone? Or having a heart-to-heart open talk with people in your community, maybe even people you don't know or people you don't like. So this, these visions I keep getting are around the crashing of money and abundance. I don't know what it means. I don't really care to speculate, but it's been very interesting to sit with for the last 11 years to wonder, like, what does this all mean? What do I do with it? And the way I've worked with this energy of, this world of crashing economies and potentially money, as we know it, maybe being meaningless or maybe being worthless, at least in maybe the US or whatever it is, or the Western world, or who knows, maybe we'll just have to redefine it altogether and see what happens. But the way I've been working with this energy is reframing money and abundance and reframing it as, really approaching how we earn money, why we do things, like why we put our medicine out there in the world, doing it to truly be of this aligned service, of this place of allowing what's emerging through you to just come through without any attachment or expectation of money or making something back or even getting clients. And that I have been kind of doing it as a kind of a surrender experiment for at least the last, I think I first really became aware of this in 2016. So in 2016, I went on this surrender experiment. After reading the surrender experiment and going on my first dieta, I approach my work in the world from this place of like, what would I be doing if money didn't matter? How would I put this out there if there was zero attachment to the actual money? Because my soul has something coming through it that needs to be shared. It's what I refer to as your medicine, your unique medicine. Every human being has their own unique medicine that is here, alive, incarnated here at this time for a reason. And what if it didn't matter if it worked or if you made money from it or, and like just start to experiment with it. And I try to teach this. It's hard for some people to start to embody it, but if you just experiment and see what happens and have fun, what I've seen with me and a lot of my clients over the years is the more we approach this from this place of true embodiment of your soul's journey, like your soul's path is here and it's called to something for a reason. It's being pulled towards something. And when you experiment with this and step onto this from a place of non-attachment, no expectations, and just from purity of allowing what is emerging through you and coming through you to come through you, see what happens. And what I've seen with me and lots and lots and lots of my clients over the years is the abundance just starts coming in. One of the keys, though, is you really have to get out of your own way. You have to actually start doing the inner work to really witness your conscious and subconscious belief patterns around abundance, money, worthiness, deserving, allowing, receiving, all the different stories. And it's deep work. I mean, it's honestly, I do this with a lot of my clients. I do this in my mastermind. I do it in my 7-week program. I do it with a lot of my private clients to really start producing an inner shift in the patterns and the belief systems that are running behind the scenes that might actually be keeping you from the not just financial support, but all kinds of abundance support in your life. Usually this is what's happening. And I see it a lot. And I actually see it when I meet people. Even during my free live workshops, if someone has a question about money and I bring them on and I coach them through it, it's like I can see through and see what is the pattern that's running that, or the belief. Doesn't matter what you call it, by the way, because it's all a pattern, energetic. If there's something running behind the scenes that's getting in the way, you have to start bringing it into the awareness to have that transmutation to allow in the shift. I mean, that's how all healing works. Healing isn't just going and doing a lot of psychedelics and hoping for the best or, paying to see an integration coach or a therapist. There's a lot, and a lot of it is subconscious reprogramming work. The key is we have to start making those patterns and the beliefs and these, unconscious systems that are running us. Like, it's like the deep digging has to start coming up to the surface in order to just be seen. That's only the first step. And that's all you have to do right now. And I think these kind of visions keep coming through me for a reason. I've had these visions of a world where money didn't matter, but abundance was there. I mean, because money is just a piece, money is just one little aspect of it all. There is abundance all around you, whether you have the money or not. And that's something I've been teaching for a while. And, I'm probably going to teach more of this because I believe as the world keeps changing, God knows what's going to happen. But, what I keep seeing, with this transformation in our entire societies around the world, it's going to require us to change our perspective and change our approach into a different way. And it's not bad. There's nothing bad or wrong about it. It just is. But we can resist it and fight against it, or we can learn to work with it, and ride the waves into this beautiful world that we all know is possible. This, what people might call this new earth, this new paradigm. It's like we are in literally the turning of the ages and what we, certain works call the great turning. It's like there's something happening that's a shift. So we can have every single one of us resist it and complain about it. I mean, I've seen people complaining about how much blah, blah, blah costs. It's like, okay, yes. And well, you can complain on social media and just get upset, which, I always say it's kind of like the double arrow, like Buddha talks about. There's an arrow shot into your heart and now you're just shooting another arrow on top of it. That's just making it hurt more. So that's a choice. You want to just complain and feel bad all the time and walk around life complaining about all the things going on in the world? Or do you actually want to start to do something about it and start with yourself and start with this inner shift within your own thinking, your heart, your reality, and the way you show up in the world? And this is what I really encourage all of you to do, is really question every little aspect of your choice in your thoughts, the choice in your actions, the choice of what you say out there on the internet or what you're putting out there in the world. Is this aligned with the world that you want to co-create and the world that you want to see? Or is this just aligned with the old paradigm of more separation and more division and more competition and more arguing and more, just keeping yourself miserable with these arrows in you? And it's the same thing with abundance and allowing it in and maybe shifting your attitude and perspective around like, okay, yeah, maybe you don't like the way things are. Maybe you think everything's expensive. Maybe you're not making enough. Maybe it's a challenge for you. And you can complain about it until it just keeps making you feel worse and worse and worse and perpetuating the same pattern over and over and over. Or you can choose to think and approach it a different way. You can choose in your heart to just make a shift. And here's the thing. Don't believe me. Only believe yourself by trying it, by experiencing it, by just deciding to make a change in your attitude one day and go about it as an experiment and see what happens. Anyways, I hope you'd enjoy this. I will do more ranting and more just channeling of what's come through ayahuasca visions for the last 11 years. Stay tuned. Who knows what will come through? And I will say, if you're listening to this, there's one more week that you can join the 7-week intensive program. Tomorrow we begin. The last day to join is April 17th. Other than that, I don't know when my next live program will be, but stay tuned. If you're not already receiving my emails, I highly encourage you to download one of my free trainings and stay in touch with me via email. It's one of the best ways to communicate with me. And reach out if you need any support. But now is the time. The world needs you. Lots of love. Thanks for being here. Bye. I hope you enjoyed the episode. If you're feeling inspired, I'd appreciate it if you showed your love with a review. And check out my YouTube channel where you can find the video version of this podcast. You can also head to bethaweinstein.com to learn more about me and grab my free business growth trainings. Remember, you carry your own unique medicine, and your medicine is what we need for these times.